Thanks, Nate. So the purpose of me being here is to share my story about my life having diabetes. Not only to express to you how important it is to take care of yourself, the stresses that you go through as a child growing up with diabetes, but also to get the fact out to people that no matter what you have gone through with diabetes and no matter how bad things are, there are things that you can do to improve your health. So, I've been diabetic nearly my entire life. I got diabetes at the age of 2. I was sleeping all of the time. I was really lethargic, and I was tired, and I was feeling sick, and my mother took me to the hospital. My blood sugar was over 1,300, which, as you know, can put you into a coma. So, as a child, my diabetes was perfectly well managed by my mother. She checked my blood sugar, she did my injections, she made sure that my snack was at a certain time every single day. Now, as a child, you think, okay, well, snack time doesn't sound too bad. But when you're 6 years old and you really want a cookie, and you can't have that cookie until 3 o'clock, it does make life kind of hard. But for the most part, I grew up an average child. I just remember little things like my mom saying it was time for my shot and having to go get my shot, or it being snack time and having to go get my snack. I do remember the other children being extremely jealous that I got the extra snack at recess and they didn't. So growing up, my diabetes was perfectly well controlled, and I was a pretty normal, happy kid. When I was 7, my mother shipped me off to a diabetic summer camp, and I was not excited. My mom had managed my diabetes my entire life, and I had never had anybody else do my injections or check my blood sugar. I was really nervous. But after spending 2 weeks at that camp, I came back with a newfound excitement that I could do my own injections, and I had learned to check my own blood sugar and take care of myself completely by myself, which I had never done. So it was pretty exciting. I remember eating a bunch of extra snacks just so I could do my shot in front of people. You know, we'd be in the middle of a family picnic, and I'd be like, guys, you really need to watch me, and I just give myself 2 shots, eat 2 snacks, just because I thought it was cool. So growing up, it really wasn't that hard. At the age of 14, I went from going to a very small private school to a public high school. I had never seen that many kids in one area in my life. I grew up with the same 20 kids, kindergarten through 8th grade, and now I was in a class of most likely 400 or 500. And that was a lot of kids to me, and I didn't really know how to handle being diabetic in front of all these new kids. I didn't feel comfortable doing blood tests in front of people because they looked at me differently. And when I told them they had diabetes, a lot of people went, well, that means you're allergic to sugar, right? And I said, no, it doesn't mean I'm allergic to sugar. So after a while, and not having my regular friends around, I got really sad, and I didn't know how to make new friends. I felt really out of place and awkward, and one day I just decided I was no longer going to take care of my diabetes. What was the point? I wanted to eat whatever I want. I wanted to do what the other kids were doing. And I decided it wasn't worth the time to sit there and check my blood sugar, and sit there and take the correct insulin and eat the correct food. I just wanted to be normal. So I slowly quit checking my blood sugars and just started to eat whatever I wanted. And later on, I would forget taking my insulin. I got incredibly sick to the point of where when I would go home, I would eat something and literally pass out because my blood sugars were so high. My blood sugars would go from 300 to over 1,000, and I would just fall asleep. And that's how I lived my life. In high school, get up, go to school, eat something, fall asleep, sleep for 14 hours, get back up, do it again. If I felt incredibly sick, I would try to take my insulin, but the effects that it had on me were too hard to deal with. When I would start to take my medication again, I would shake, I would sweat, I would feel nauseous, I would not be able to concentrate. I felt like I was dying. So eventually, after having blood sugars of over 1,000 for such a long time, you can't get your blood sugars down to a normal range. When I would try to get to lower than 400, my whole body would shake. And I felt like I was going to pass out. So for over 4 years, I lived with blood sugars of over 1,000. I would take a little bit of insulin, it would come down to maybe 300 or 400. But at that point, I felt awful. So I would eat something and my blood sugars would go back up. I didn't have much of a social life because when your blood sugar is that high, your body, it can't function. You don't feel well. Your brain doesn't function. And I basically went through high school just in a daze. So my senior year of high school, I had been to the hospital nearly every single week for the last year. The moment my parents would try to force me to check my blood sugar, they would see that my meter read over 500, and they would rush me off to the hospital. My doctors didn't know how I was alive. They'd look at me, and I'll never forget, one day my doctor took a look at me and said, "You're going to die. I don't have anything else to say, but you're going to die." And I remember sitting there and thinking about it and thinking, okay, whatever. I'm not listening to you. I'm invincible. You know, I'm 17 years old. Nothing bad could ever happen to me. They would tell me things like, "You're going to lose your feet." Or my mom would say things like, "You're burning your eyes." And as a kid, as a teenager, you don't listen when people tell you something's going to happen. You just think to yourself, well, that's fine. I mean, whatever you think, I'm just going to keep on going with my merry little way. So I continued to neglect my blood sugars until probably the last 6 months of my senior year. And I can remember one class party passing out in the corner because I had eaten a bunch of pizza, just like my classmates, and I fell asleep. And I missed the entire party. I woke up at the end and thought, you know what? This is really pathetic. And I thought about it, and I thought about so many things that I had missed, so many things I wanted to do, but because my blood sugars were out of control, I didn't do any of them. And I think about how many days I suffered from ketoacidosis and was so weak I couldn't get up. I was so sick I would hyperventilate while walking upstairs. I can remember throwing up in the middle of one of my classes because my blood sugar was probably 1,200 and I was just sick. I had to spend an extra year in high school because I was so sick I had to leave for an entire year. And I can remember spending that entire year sitting at home on the computer trying to finish my classes. When I look back on things, I don't remember high school. And that's how bad High blood sugars can affect your brain. I don't remember high school. My family talks about events that happened that I don't recall and I don't remember, because when your blood sugar is high, your whole body is affected and you don't have control. So my senior year of high school, that was it. I was done. I was done being sick. I said, okay, here we go. We're going to get control of the blood sugars. I'm going to be healthy, and I'm going to get my life back. I don't know what made me decide to do it, but I knew in my heart I had to do something. So I started taking my insulin slowly. And the moment I would give myself a shot, it felt like my entire body was blowing up like a balloon. My legs would swell to the point of where I couldn't wear normal shoes, and I couldn't put my regular pants on. My eyes would turn blood red, and I'd start shaking and sweating to the point of where all winter I would wear nothing but a tank top. No matter if it was snowing or not, that's what I was going to wear. And I slowly started to do more insulin, and I can remember days of having to wear slippers to school because my feet wouldn't fit in my shoes. And my doctors thought, well, that's kind of odd, but at least they were proud that I was starting to get my blood sugars down. So for that entire year of being about the range of 300, I felt like I was starting to be a little bit normal. I had a little bit more energy. I started doing more things. And I kept working it all through the summer after my senior year. So by this time, I had gotten my blood sugars in perfect range. After about a year, I dropped my A1C from a 17.5 to a 6. And my doctor was shocked. And all the doctors that told me, you are going to die, were shocked. They couldn't believe that I had such a turnaround. And they kept asking me what happened. And I said, you know what? I wanted to live my life. So after that, I came out of there with a completely healthy body. Nothing bad had happened, and I thought, okay, I am invincible. I'm 17 years old. I had blood sugars of over 1,000 for 5 years. You don't meet people like that. And I thought I was pretty lucky. So my first year of college, I started going to school. I was an honor student. And I was there for maybe 3 weeks. And all of a sudden I noticed there was something not quite right with my vision. I felt like I had something in my eye. I would rub my eye constantly thinking that, okay, maybe I'm getting a sty, or maybe there's makeup in there. There's something in my eye, and it's kind of throwing off my vision. So I go to the eye doctor, and the first thing he says to me is, if you don't have surgery right now, you're going to be blind for the rest of your life. And I'm sitting there, and, you know, I'm 18 years old, and I'm like, blind? What? And they race me off, and I have emergency eye surgery that day. I had 2 eye surgeries. After the eye surgeries, I was continuing to go to school, but I was completely blind in one eye and had tunnel vision in the other. I would sit there for hours at a time, bawling, crying as hard as I could, scared to death because the doctors didn't know if the surgeries would work or not. He said that one day I could just wake up and be blind. Or, if I got my blood sugars to stay stable, I may recover. It scared the heck out of me. So I'd sit there every day with my magnifying glass, laying on the floor to get the paper really close to my face, and I would cry, and I would try so hard to do my homework because I didn't want to do homework with a disability. I wanted to be a normal kid. So I worked as hard as I could, and I kept going to school. Surprisingly, while still on the dean's list, with a visual disability, I continued to go. So once the eyes started to heal, I began to notice my legs would hurt. Just randomly. My calves would hurt, the front of my shins would hurt, my feet felt like they were swelling, and I couldn't figure out why. So I would sit in class and I would rub my legs. And it got so bad to the point of where I could not go to work anymore. I couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes. My legs felt like they were going to explode. It just hurt. It felt like a rubber band was wrapped around my knees. And I'd go to the doctor and they would say, well, I don't know what's wrong. We'll try you on nerve medication. So they put me on nerve medication. Nothing happens. They say, well, we'll try you on pain medication. I spent every single day at home, in bed, crying because my legs hurt so bad. I had to leave school. I had to leave work. I was 19 years old, spending my entire life laying in bed. They had me on Dilaudid, Vicodin, methadone, codeine, fentanyl, Neurontin, any serious drug that you should never put a child on. And it still wasn't touching the pain. So I ended up spending almost an entire year in the hospital every other week. Every other week I was in so much pain they would rush me off to the emergency room. And the doctors still couldn't figure it out. So after it had been a year, the doctors in Portland told me, we don't know what's wrong, we're going to send you home. We're going to take you off all your medications and send you home. So cold turkey, they take me off of everything. And I can remember being wheeled out of that hospital, standing up to get in the car and realizing I can't get in the car. After laying in bed for an entire year, I had dropped down to about 80 pounds. I had no muscle. I couldn't sit up straight in a chair. I couldn't walk. So my mom had to help me get in the car and go home. I made it a goal, and it sounds kind of silly, but to walk around the kitchen maybe 3 times a day. That was my main goal. I would spend my entire night shaking, laying in bed, having withdrawals from all the medication that they put me on. And eventually had to do physical therapy. My journey continued along with a lot of other problems, one by one complications. My circulation getting so bad that I had to wear heated gloves, whether indoors or outside. My hands would turn white, my fingers wouldn't move. And my doctors would continue to look at me and say, well, that's what you get for not taking care of your diabetes. So I still struggled, legally blind. I weighed about 80 pounds. I developed stomach neuropathy in my intestines. I developed circulatory problems. I had fatty liver, which is a pretty serious problem. And my diabetes was in perfect control. But it was everything that I had done in the past that really ended up hurting me. So one day, and after a long series of other events, The person I love most looked at me and said, "You know what? I can't deal with your problems. It's too much stress for me. You have too many problems, and I don't want to have to deal with them." That made me mad. So I decided I was making it my mission to change my life. I wasn't going to sit there and consider myself disabled because of diabetes. I wasn't going to let diabetes change my life. So I got in the car and I started to drive. Just down the street. I couldn't see all the lines in the road with all of the blind spots that I had been left with, but I made sure that I was going to be able to do it. I started exercising to help my circulation, which weighing 80 pounds, you can't lift more than 10 pounds without getting tired. And I worked on that, and I made it my job to go to the gym every day. So at this point, I had taught myself how to drive. I had taught myself how to read, and I was determined to fix the problems that I had. I spent over a year making it my job to go to the gym every day, help my circulation, get my diabetes under control, increase the endorphins, make myself feel good. And I'll tell you what, after a year of working as hard as I could, I gained 30 pounds of straight muscle. My diabetes was perfect. My circulation problems weren't nearly as bad, and I could throw away those heated gloves. I was used to my vision, and I was functioning normally for the first time in my life since I was 13 years old. I felt pretty good. I thought to myself that I was going to be disabled forever. How could I drive? How could I get to work? What can I do if my hands aren't working? What do I do if my blood sugars are out of control or my stomach hurts? I could barely walk at one point, and now I'm running about 7 or 8 miles. So I decided, this is what I can do. I can be in the gym. I can help other people do what I did with their diabetes. I can help other people get their blood sugars under better control. Change their life, because no matter how bad things are, you can do things to help yourself. Little things. And you'd really be surprised that if you just find it in yourself, you can make a huge difference. So my goal right now, I'm a certified personal trainer. I work with people one-on-one to improve their health using exercise. Whether it be the ability to get up and down off the floor or out of a chair, or if someone has the goal to be able to run half a mile. I work with people on their goals. They don't have to be the most intricate, outrageous goals. Little ones, that's where you start. Just like I started walking around the kitchen. So that's a little bit about what I do now. Functioning well, proud to say I'm driving, I'm working, I'm happy. I've got people in my life that I love and that support me. And I'm really interested in helping others not go through the things that I went through, because I'm 25 years old and I feel like it's been a lifetime. And I have to live the rest of my life this way. My vision will never get better. My circulation, my stomach, everything, I'm going to live with it for the rest of my life. But what I want to express to people today is that if you try, you really can live a completely healthy life and help yourself. So if you're interested, if anybody's interested in working with me and trying to better their health, taking small steps, whether it be changing your diet or even starting a small exercise program, I would love to hear from you. I do have a sheet down here on the corner of the table. If you would like to write your name and phone number, I would love to help any one of you take some steps in your life to better your health. I wish I could share more, but we're out of time. So I'm going to hand you back over to Nate. Thank you.
Thank you.